My world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
I'm joined today by one of the best known names in the Dublin LGBT community, and it's, of course, Sibh Conmy, who is associated with that iconic LGBTQ venue in Dublin, Street66. Siobhan, apologies. Siobhan, welcome to LGBTQlife.
Thank you very much. How are you?
Siobhan, it's got to have been one of the most difficult years for yourself, but probably personally and in business as well because of the impact of COVID. But before we talk about that, you're associated with Street66 down there in Parliament Street. How long have you been associated with it? Because old codgers like me, we remember it as the front lounge, but of course it's been Street66 for some time now.
I took over Street66 on the 1st of December 2016. So we're heading into our 5th year now.
Yep. And why did you call it Street66? Because that was one thing that I could never quite grasp. The front lounge I understood you could call it, but Street66, what was the thinking behind that?
Street66, basically, I DJ a little bit myself, and I've done a lot of festivals and organised a lot of events prior to opening Street66. And Street66 is the name of a poem by an English Jamaican poet, and it is about racism, and it's kind of a Jamaican English poem, and it's kind of meant a lot to me throughout the years, because I do a lot of world music and reggae music in my personal DJing in Electric Picnic and different festivals.
You're a bit of a fan of the reggae music, are you?
I am, yeah.
You're welcome to the club. Then I spent the entire 70s living in London, and I still say to people, if I was cast away on a desert island and I was only allowed to take one type of music, it would probably be reggae. But that's who we are, isn't it? Yep. Tell us then. Tell us, Siobhan. If we go back about it, we're talking just under a year now when COVID came in. I don't think any of us could have quite imagined how wide the impact was going to be. What was your initial thoughts on it, that, this is something that will come and go and we'll be back up again in a few weeks' time, sort of stuff?
Yeah, I remember on the 15th of March, that night, on the 14th and 15th of March. The 14th of March, I was getting a little bit nervous, and we were doing the social distancing, etc. in the bar, and we'd reduced the capacity. The capacity is 500, and we reduced it to 150. And then on the 15th of March, listened to media and just customers coming in to support us and stuff, and just coming up to me going, "Stay strong, you can keep going." I was just getting more nervous as that day was going on, just for fear of some of the older customers in the community and stuff. And at about 11 o'clock that night, I was talking to her and my business partner, Christina, and I said, we just can't do this. It's not fair on the customers, it's not fair on the staff. And we closed before it was officially announced by the government. We closed that night because it was just too frightening, having so many customers coming in just to support you. And we were all just we just could feel the fear and the tension, and we didn't know what was going to happen. So I thought, okay, so this is so I went around to a few of the customers and said, we're going to be closing the bar now tonight, and we'll hopefully be back open in about 2 weeks. Yeah. And that was a year ago on the 15th of March now, to be a year. And so for the first couple of weeks, I kind of, for the first week or so, I was just, thinking, okay, right, it'll be 2 or 3 weeks. And then as time went on, and then things were supposed to open on 3 or 4 different occasions. I had everything ready, everything sanitized, brought in equipment, took in deliveries myself at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then just to listen to the news that the hospitality wet bars would not be open. My heart has been broken about at least 3 times, thinking that I would be open, organising, the table service, having everything ready, having all the staff, etc., etc. Yeah, so it has been a pretty tough year. Now, since October, it's kind of hit me. I haven't, the deliveries, all the deliveries have been uplifted, etc. And I just have it in my head, okay, I just have to be strong and just wait and just be sensible and stop losing my head on occasions and just stay calm, and we will get back there. I personally don't see it happening until after St. Patrick's Day, probably April, realistically.
Yeah. Now it's interesting that the dates stick in our heads, isn't it? Because on the 10th of March, I was on the governing body of one of the synagogues in Dublin, and we took a decision on the 10th of March to close because of the elderly congregants. It hasn't opened since then, so it's and I can't see it opening again before the summer. Leaving. See, everybody thinks, oh, well, it's a bar. But in the case of Street 66, it's a great deal more than that, because it's a meeting place for the LGBT community, and particularly the more mature members of the LGBT community, and especially those who are single or widowed or widowers. The impact must be massive. Well, have you been able to keep in touch with some of the people who are great supporters of your establishment?
Yeah, because on a personal level, I went through, for coming out myself, etc. I went through all the emotions, and so Street 66 for me is like it's a community, it's a personal, it's like a home for the community. And I've always been in touch with some of the older members of the community, especially, who are nervous, and I've introduced them to other people. They've been, embarrassed to meet people. We've loads of different meetings every week. We'd have the 20s to 30s LGBT, then we'd have the bikers club. We'd have many different societies booked in every day of the week in Street 66. And then you would have people waiting outside, afraid to come in. And they would contact me personally, and I would introduce them. And so I've kept in contact with many people. I'm emailing Messenger, and people just checking in on them all the time. I offer, and myself, we offer to do shopping, etc., which we nobody has asked us to do. But mostly, I keep in contact, just sending text messages, sending emails, and checking in. And since I have an apartment in Dublin, but I've moved down to Meath, and my partner Catherine has opened up a coffee shop in Duleek in County Meath during the lockdown, and we get a lot of customers from Street 66 up and down. I'm volunteering there at the moment since the lockdown to keep myself sane.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So,
Sure. Your Street 66, I've always seen as the most relaxed of the 3 venues, the 3 most prominent venues in Dublin. Am I right in thinking that it is possibly the most female friendly? And I'm not saying the others aren't, but it seems to me that it is much more of a that would be the first choice for female members of the LGBT community. All the people I know who are LGBT women would almost always gravitate there first rather than the other 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. So basically, like historically, the front lounge used to have all the ladies at the front of the bar, and all the men would congregate at the back of the bar. That's what I was told anyway. And because the bar now is owned by female,
Yeah.
and basically we get a lot of support from the female community. I involve personally, and I work closely with a lot of friends that are musicians and artists and stuff, and it's more homely and more friendly for the female. They feel more comfortable. They seem to feel more comfortable in it, and it may be because I'm a female myself. I'm not sure, but we get we're kind of more involved with the female community because of I'm a female. I guess that's probably the reason.
Yeah. I was going to say it has less of a reputation as a meat market.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, any business, now I'm not saying that yours is different to others, but any business is going to have trouble surviving in such an environment. I would suspect at this time it is very important to have a good relationship with your bank manager because cash flow at the moment, I suspect, is close to zero. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm very lucky that I've had a lot of support from when we were opening the bar from different suppliers and stuff. So I personally don't owe any money to the bank, but we do have. We are in negotiations at the moment because we have a long-term lease. Mm-hmm. So that's all up in the air at the moment, and it's all nerve-wracking and whatever to sort all that out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so these are very. I'm on to my accountant and solicitor all the time, and we are in constant negotiations. Try and keep things smooth and try and hold out. And what would possibly happen in my situation is we'll have to extend the lease for an extra couple of years to be able to pay off what I've missed for the last year. That's what I'm hoping, best case scenario.
Well, we would all hope that that prevails because the loss of Street66 would be catastrophic for the Dublin LGBTQ community. Can I come back to something, Siobhan, because a couple of months ago, because I always follow your Twitter feed, and I could see you getting quite upset, not irate, but upset. And you were talking about people wandering around the streets with pints and bottles of this and that in their hand up there in South William Street. You guys were all doing the right thing. How bad did that affect you psychologically to see that you were being hammered for doing the right thing, and other bars up there were actually creaming it in because they were prepared to bend the rules a bit? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, in the last couple of months, I've gone through so many different emotions, and anger was one of them, because I felt that I couldn't open my bar because of the people flaunting the rules and regulations or whatever. And I was, I probably wanted to blame someone for the hospitality business not being open, when the majority of publicans adhere to all the rules and stuff. I felt it unfair that other people, there's people drinking on the streets, and just because of a few people, that the rest of the hospitality got this name or whatever, that, even though we were closed the past year, the COVID was came through the bars and restaurants, etc. I just felt upset that when I was walking through St. William Street, etc., I could see loads of people with pints watching it on different platforms, media platforms, etc. I got frustrated because I didn't get a chance to open Street66 for one day, and these guys, they were drinking on the streets and whatever. I just pushed the blame on this small group of bars that flaunted the law because I couldn't open. It was part of being upset and annoyed at the same time. Yeah. And I feel like we're all in this together, so I think we should all stick to the rules and to keep our reputation.
No. Do you think the Gardaí could have taken a more active role in that, just to at least level the playing field?
I feel that the guards had a lot of work to do, and I don't think the rules. I don't think the guidelines were clear enough, really. Like the rules for takeaway pints and stuff were kind of up in the air. And the Taoiseach casually mentioned, and there'll be no takeaway pints, but there's no law to suggest, there's no law that you cannot sell takeaway pints on the street. I think, in my opinion, I think it put too much pressure on the guards because the streets were getting full. I think it was up to the publicans, but I think a lot of the publicans just kept serving, and we're outside the perimeter. There was supposed to be 15 people outside at one stage, and there was hundreds of people all over the streets.
Sure, yeah, we saw that in William Street.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of, it was, the guidelines were kind of a little bit loose. They weren't clear. I think all through the whole COVID in the past year, the guidelines haven't been clear for the hospitality.
Sure, yeah. What do you feel? One of the issues, and I find it quite interesting, is that there's been very little coverage, particularly on the news that I've seen, either on television, radio, newspapers, about the impact of COVID on the LGBT. And I'm talking community, and I'm talking about the social impact here, because we've lost all the festivals, we've lost Pride, we've got huge impacts on the mental health of individuals, just the capacity of people to interact. Do you think this really shows the way media looks at the LGBT? We're colourful when it suits them, but hey, there's nothing happening now, so it's a non-event. How do you feel about that, Siobhan?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a little bit frustrating because the LGBT community have been ignored a little bit. Like I was talking on a radio station in May. It was the anniversary of the Yes vote. And when I was being interviewed, I felt like, oh, you've got your Yes vote now, aren't we all equal? Why are you so concerned about having an LGBT bar? Why do we need these spaces? Yeah. And I left that, being a little bit frustrated, because we definitely need these spaces. There's a lot of people, from isolated now, especially during this time, and they've no one to talk to, they've no one to meet up with, they've no one to share their feelings with. And I find that, we are being a little bit ignored now during this time. Yeah. I've tried to contact different politicians, etc., all through my frustrations in the last couple of months, trying to open up some spaces just for people to go to, because there's a lot of lonely people out there, and they just have nobody else to talk to. And there's a lot of people that had to maybe move home, they couldn't afford the rents, etc., and nobody would, their family may not know that they're out or whatever. And Street66 and all the other venues were a safe space for these people. And now I'm kind of a little bit concerned what kind of a life they're living at the moment. And yeah, I think this a little bit more should have been done for minor communities in general, like not just the LGBT, for different minority groups or whatever. This, it could have been a little bit more done for it.
Well, that's why I was very proud when I read, I think it was on Facebook, I read my our mutual friend, Brian Merriman. Brian was saying that there's a lot of older LGBTQ people, and most of them came out at a time when it was, or didn't even come out to their families, or they were isolated, or they were disowned, or you name it. And he said these were people who are now living on their own, and they were very isolated. And although he respected the guidelines, he was not going to, that he was going to visit these friends of his because of their situation. And I thought that, we love Brian to bits because he's such a great man, but I thought, that needed to be said, because how do you feel about that, Siobhan? Because it seems like you've been doing something similar yourself.
Yeah, I really respect Brian and all his opinions, and he really calms people down when they get a bit frustrated and stuff. And he has sent me many personal messages going, we're all in this together and stuff. He's such a calm person. And like myself, I've been personally, because I've been isolated down in I've been in Meath at the moment, not in Dublin city centre. So the only thing I can do is contact people through Zoom calls, through meetings, etc. And anytime I've been up doing the cellar or putting on the water or the heat or whatever, I always let people pop in, which a few people have popped to the door just to say hello and check in, and walk around the bar just to.
Because it's important really in there, and if they haven't danced, so what? Yeah. Something that hasn't been canvassed, but I think I'd like to hear your view on this, Siobhan. We're putting a lot of faith in a vaccine, and we're also then encouraging people to take vaccines. Now, I know there's anti-vaxxers and all that out there, but it seems to me people were more likely to accept a vaccine in an environment that they're comfortable with and they're unfriendly with. How do you feel about your premises being used as a vaccination centre? Because we've got lots of doctors and people in the medical profession in the LGBT community. And I think a lot of people would be very happy to front up and get their vaccination in Street 66. And not only that, but I suspect you've got plenty of fridges that could be used as well. So how do you think about that proposal, Siobhan?
Yeah, we've got an empty cold room downstairs, which would provide a lot of space for vaccines. And I would love, I could offer tea and coffee afterwards. And the venue is certainly big enough. And it's there for anybody who is interested.
Yeah. Well, I know if I had a choice between going to my local GP, who I get my flu jab from, or my local pharmacy, who are very nice people, or going to Street 66, I'd be very happy to come into town from the north side and have a flu jab in there, maybe have a cup of coffee with you and just catch up with a few people.
I love that.
Yeah, here's one for you now, and this is a very interesting one in the sense that let's look at, shall we say, the post-vaccination phase. Have any thought been given to people needing a vaccination to come back to Street 66 when it's open?
Yeah, I've thought about that, and I think in the future, I think to go to any kind of venues, etc., there probably will be like a passport or whatever with the vaccination stamp on it. I wouldn't mind seeing that, to be honest. I feel more comfortable that people are vaccinated in the premises.
Well, this is exactly it. I mean, 95% means that for every 1,000 people you have through your doors, and you say you've got a capacity for 500, it means that 50, the vaccination doesn't work with them, or it isn't quite, they potentially are still infected. So the numbers are concerned in that respect.
Exactly, yeah.
You're talking about we may not open till April. I was listening to RTE this morning, and they had somebody who owned a restaurant, and they were going so far as to say perhaps the summer. We've already cancelled this year's Paddy's Day parade for the second year in a row. Not being negative, I think we're almost certainly going to cancel the Pride Parade as well, which is a great shame, because again, I have some lovely photographs of the Street 66 contingent at the 2019 one. How much of an impact would that have on your business? Because I know lots and lots of people just love to gravitate to Street 66 after we've been down to Merrion Square.
Yeah, at the moment I can't even imagine. I'm pretty hopeful that it will go ahead. I can't even think of it not going ahead at the moment.
Yeah.
If we find out in the next month or so that it's going to be officially cancelled, then I will have to come up with a plan to do some kind of a virtual thing. Yeah. But I think, I'm positive that we will be open at some level before June, and I will definitely have a mini Pride or a social distance Pride, or definitely some sort of a party in Street 66, marking the occasion. Yeah. So I'm positive. I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to say that we're going to be open whether there's an official Pride parade or not, and we will have our own Pride event in Street 66.
Okay. Siobhan, I'm going to let you go now because you're a busy woman. But look,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we hope that Street 66 will be back up and running again, and in all its glory and its welcoming nature, because Dublin not only needs it, but misses it as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Siobhan Conmy, it's been a delight talking to you today. And as I say, we'll get through this, but it is tough, isn't it? Yeah.
My world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am.